And then there's me, a broke grad student.
Doing a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, I am Amanda.
Hola, I am Lennice.
สวัสดีค่ะ I'm Asama.
And we are the Triplicates. Welcome to the first of many episodes of the Triplicate podcast. We are three first-generation women of color, currently in our first year of our PhD program at the University of California, San Diego, in the Division of Biological Sciences.
Why triplicates, you may ask? Well, in science, you need at least 3 replicates to do statistics and find things like the average or standard deviation of your data. Here you have 3 different women, 3 different experiences, and thus triplicates in the experiment that is a PhD program.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to chat about anything in this episode or have suggestions for topics you'd like to hear about, we're here. You can reach us on Twitter and Instagram, both at triplicatespod, or email triplicatespod@gmail.com. And if you would like to support us, you can find us on Ko-fi, that is ko-fi.com/triplicatespod, and on Patreon at patreon.com/triplicatespod. And last but not least, shout out to December and Michaela, our social media and marketing team, for keeping everything up and running. Thank you!
Look at us. Oh, I feel like I don't say that I'm a PhD student, and it just brings like substance.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
it's definitely a little bit heavier than saying I'm a grad student.
yeah.
Yep.
Wow, psychoanalyzing me only using grad student instead of PhD student.
Yeah, PhD's like it seems like a larger endeavor, which it is. It's
is,
like
yeah.
a couple more years.
It's like thrice the amount of years.
Did you say thrice?
Yep.
That could be our podcast name, Thrice.
We already have the handles, guys.
Yeah.
Jokes, jokes.
Okay, Asama, you were the last one to introduce yourself. Why don't you start out a little bit about your STEM story?
Where do I start?
When did you realize science was cool?
I guess when I was a little kid, I thought science was cool because I grew up with a single mom and she was a nurse and she was always dropping knowledge. She was like, make sure you wash your hands, make sure you don't share your drink with someone. And I would be like, why? And why? And why? You know, like really annoying 3-year-old. And turns out I learned a lot about like diseases and how like germs work and how microbes work. And 20 years later, here I am in a PhD program studying microbes.
In the middle of a pandemic.
In the middle of a global pandemic.
But like, let's give it up to female mentors, especially
Oh,
mom
listen.
mentors.
Yeah.
Okay.
The way nature comes is about to get dragged. I'm really curious when we're going to deplatform nature. This is like not the first time that they've done something like this. Right, we just need to take the power away from them to continue to do this.
I mean, you could. We could have a whole conversation about deplatforming all journals.
Yeah.
And the fact that they make so much money.
Yep.
Off of other people's
Mhm.
research.
And the thing is, like, what do they do with the money? Oh, very good questions here.
Yes.
Okay.
Questions on questions.
Okay, so you thought science was cool. Why biology? Like, why aren't you in maybe another STEM field? Or why a PhD program? Why not medicine if your mom was a nurse?
Yeah, I think I was like my first interest in STEM was in like health and diseases and how basically like how life works. And I thought that was really cool. But there was a time in high school and also like college too that I was really interested in like behavioral neuroscience and psychology. And I really like thought about going to grad school in those areas. But in undergrad, I was working in this lab that did gut brain axis research. So it had psychology, neuroscience, but also microbiology. And I had a mentor that is just like an amazing microbiologist. And I thought, wow, like this could be my life. I could be talking about bacteria to literally anyone I meet. And I just thought it was really neat. So I think I just had a really good mentor who was a microbiologist, and I thought that could be me.
Why am I getting emotional?
Why?
I mean, are you gonna cry right now?
No.
Is it
I
your
was
story?
like-
It's not, but I'm like, oh,
It's
like,
nice to
I don't
hear.
think we've had this conversation.
No, we
Like,
haven't. I
even
I know.
amongst
Also,
us.
this is like not scripted. I'm like, oh my god, what am I gonna say?
No,
Oh no, the point is
yeah.
to not be scripted.
Yeah.
We don't
But like,
really-
is it over? Like, do you guys get to go? I don't know. I
She's
feel
like, "Can we
like
take the
I
It's like
feel
enough about me. I agreed to do a podcast where the whole thing is talking.
Yeah. I guess I don't. I'm
No,
not
we're
used to
gonna
this
rotate.
spotlight.
We can rotate.
No,
We can rotate.
yeah,
We can
yeah.
rotate. Okay. Lennice.
Oh my god.
Yes, Lenny.
When did you think science was cool?
So I'm from California, so I've lived really close to the ocean for a lot of my life. Really close being maybe 30 minutes away. Not as close as one might seem. Definitely not as close as right now, right? Because me and Amanda go to the beach and it's only 12 minutes away.
Whoa, let's not.
Let's not tell anyone
Let's,
that.
yeah.
Let's not tell anyone I was.
That's true. Anyways, so yeah, I've lived about 30-40 minutes away from the beach. So I was really fascinated with the ocean. And really early on, there's an aquarium near where I live. I visited often when I was little. My parents would take me, and then I later on ended up volunteering at this said aquarium for a couple years. And that's kind of when I fell in love with science. In this particular situation, it was marine science. Even the little things like learning about jellies, and my favorite animal is an octopus, like learning about how like smart they are as an animal, and just everything about the ocean really fascinated me. So I think that's when it started. My couple trips to the aquarium, and then it ended up being a big home and a big reason why I pursued science in college.
So cute. Do you have a favorite octopus fact that you'd like to share?
A favorite what?
Octopus fact?
A favorite octopus fact. I'm thinking. No, but I can talk about an experience. So, like, at the aquarium, you can do animal encounters with some of the animals. And I was able to do an animal encounter with our octopus. And it's interesting that when you, like, put out your hand and they wrap their tentacles around you and then they, like, let go, you get kind of, like, octopus hickeys.
Oh,
it's
like sucks.
Because it's a suction cup, yeah.
damn.
So that's
Interesting.
yeah. Trying to think of another thing that would be cool. I think they have 3 hearts. If that is that the right animal? Yeah.
I think so.
octopuses.
What?
I think I remember
Yeah.
that.
Why?
And the plural of an octopus is octopuses, not octopi.
That is a fun fact.
Yep. I always ask in happy hours, like, you know, our little Zoom happy hours to keep the conversation going. I am usually the one that starts asking weird questions, and I always ask, like, okay, if humans were wiped out, right? Like, we had, like, another great extinction. Dinosaurs gone, humans gone.
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
What would be the, like, animal to rise up, you know?
Yeah.
And my answer is always octopuses. It's like them or dolphins would be fun, too. But
I think octopuses are so cool. I think they're so intelligent, right? They
Yeah.
can fit inside. Oh, another. So there's only one hard part of their body, which is their beak.
they're mollusks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as their beak fits into an area, they can fit their entire body into that said area. That's how they're able to like fit in a. Some people use like mason jars.
Mhm.
They're able to fit into those mason jars.
Like in Finding Dory.
Yeah.
Factual documentary. Finding Dory.
What about you, Amanda?
Is that your hosting voice? So I think for me, I grew up, my mom was also a single mom.
Yes, mom.
Yes, mom. She did construction and then she did nursing, so it's interesting. But so my mom was kind of always at work, and it was like me and my brother, and we just watch a lot of Discovery, a lot of like nature documentaries, but also like Mythbusters. I like loved Mythbusters, and I feel like I always say this, but like people don't realize how important exposure to like the scientific method is, and like
Yeah.
Mythbusters was such a fun way to do it, and it really had me thinking about, okay, like what if you did this, what's gonna happen, and like thinking that through. How do we test this? How do we control variables? How do we make sure we know like whatever? Like I learned most of my scientific method from Mythbusters, and yeah, I think it's super cool. And like, I don't know, I'm really happy to be alive, I guess, when that happened, because I don't know what else would have gotten me into that. Like, I really liked biology because of like nature documentaries, but I watched nature documentaries and took away that I wanted to be a director of nature documentaries. Like, my high school, I was in a broadcasting arts magnet program, and that was like what I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do.
Did you get to do any of the nature documentary directing in high school, or did you do like something else?
No,
Okay.
no, it was like communications and broadcasting, so it was
Mhm.
like a lot more news stuff. So like there was the newspaper, there was like the people that did the videos, and then there was yearbook, so that was like print journalism, and then I was on a film track, so we just studied films, like we just watched movies, which was super fun. I would bring snacks, and we just like wrote stuff about it, like, oh, the color yellow is important in Jaws because blah 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 blah. Yeah, we can talk about it if you want, because I learned so much. It's so fun. And then we did a whole thing on just Will Smith, so we watched Will Smith's like growth as a
Great
actor.
choice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's like we were talking about like being an actor and like playing yourself versus like playing a character. Like when Will Smith was in Fresh Prince, like he was just being himself,
Mm.
right? Like he was just like fun. Like there wasn't like, you know, like embodying anything. But then he did like Muhammad Ali, and then Pursuit of Happiness,
Yeah.
and I think 7 Pounds or something.
I wonder if a lot of like child actors, like, you know, their first gig on like Disney Channel or whatever is more or less themselves,
Miley Cyrus,
and then yeah,
Hannah
and then
Montana.
they like break out
Yeah.
later.
I'm trying to think of who was that China Anne McClain. I feel like Zendaya too, from like the Shake It Up to like Euphoria transition was a big one.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's huge.
But yeah. So yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting that you bring up like exposure to scientific method because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I learned a little bit about it like when I was younger, say like watching TV and maybe in high school, but I really didn't get exposed to thinking in that way until I got involved in research. Um, but I think it might be that I'm just more of a hands-on type of learner. Um, so I think that's when I transitioned from just liking science to liking scientific research.
Okay.
But I don't know, do you feel the same about like when you got into research? Like, do you think that was there any shift?
Yeah, so when I first started doing research, I think I was trying to do med school still. Like I thought I wanted to be a doctor, which like shout out to med people, but like not for me.
Yeah.
um so I think the coolest part about it, that when I realized like I really enjoy this, is that I would ask questions and they wouldn't have the answer. They're like, "Oh, we don't know."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that wasn't discouraging. It was like, "What do you mean we don't know? Like how are we finding out? Like how are we going to figure this one out?"
Yeah.
And that was like that's what I really enjoy about science and about research, is that like we are always sitting on the edge of knowledge, and we're always trying to push that a little bit further.
Yeah.
With like every experiment, it's like, okay, let's see if we can figure out what this protein does or what this gene is responsible for. I don't know, I think it's a little motivating to like, there's always going to be something to do.
Yeah. There's always the next step when you
Mhm.
aim.
Yeah. But I feel like that's what like pushes people to burnout too, because it's like you can always be doing something else.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, the school's done, I don't have to come in. It's like, oh, but there's yeast that could be doing an experiment that I need to grow, or like,
Yeah.
I know. Especially when you work with something like fast growing, like
Yeah.
virus or bacteria. You're
Mhm.
always like, oh, what if I start something now and come back in 8 hours and do something else?
I think you get sucked into it really fast, especially if you enjoy it. Like it doesn't feel like work. Like if
Yeah.
people are like, oh, you'll never work another day in your life if you do what you enjoy. It's like, yeah, but then you're gonna work all the time because it's like you like it.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I'm learning. I don't know if you guys feel the same about like setting boundaries for yourself about like when you're going to be working.
Yeah.
I think I'm not the best at it yet, but like I talked to Amanda, I'm like, oh no, I should be setting boundaries kind of thing. And that's what's nice about having like friends in grad school.
Aw, shout out to us.
Like you really do get advice from everyone. Like I really get anxious about sending emails, and these homies are just like, just do it, just send it. It needs to be done. Why push it off? So it's been good. this is something I haven't told them, and now I am telling them on the
We love saying
podcast.
thank you.
So
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah. I think that's a wonderful note to end the show on. So let's round out our episode. Let's do some observations and run some stats on our data.
The question we're asking this week is how many grad students in our study are excited for this podcast?
Me, of course, yes.
Definitely second that.
Definitely me too.
100% of our PhD students in this study are excited for this podcast. And if you're also excited for this podcast, go ahead and show us some love on Twitter and Instagram at TriplicatesPod. And with that,
Obrigada. Ciao.
gracias y adios.
Kapun ka, bye.